SytonniaLIVE, CW69. We are here. We have retired Navy SEAL. He put in 20 years worth of work. Just retired a little, almost a year ago. Clint Emerson, how are you today?
Good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us. I'm doing very well, thank you. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about your book. Of course, you are the author of the New York Times bestseller, 100 Deadly Skills. It was released in October. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, it's a book that basically provides good people with the skills that bad guys use, to keep it simple. It's been referred to as an R-rated Boy Scout handbook because a lot of these skills in there are for doing good deeds, protecting yourself while you're here domestically or internationally.
Now, backing up just a little bit because when you bring the Boy Scouts in, it kind of like all ties in together. That's like the early the early process of possibly leading someone into becoming a Navy SEAL. Tell us a little bit about the role of a Navy SEAL. I know you guys are like those people, but break it down a little bit about exactly what a Navy SEAL does.
All right. Well, SEALs, for the most part, in this last decade plus, we've been fighting terrorism on all fronts. So a Navy SEAL is capable of infiltrating via sea, air, and land, and that's the acronym SEAL. And so we can skydive into a target, we can dive underwater and come across beaches to a target, or we can come across land and hit a target that way. So we pretty much get in and out in a variety of modes. But for the most part, for 15 years plus, it's just been terrorism, terrorism, terrorism.
And of course, a lot of training, of course, that goes into being a Navy SEAL. So for someone who may want to follow that career path, what can they expect? How hard is it exactly? Because I mean, everyone knows that a Navy SEAL does it all, just like you were describing. So how hard is the training process?
It's tough. There's a selection process before you can even go to SEAL training that takes your ASVAB, which is the Armed Forces Military Exam. It's like an SAT. Takes those scores along with a physical PT test. And as long as you've scored to a certain level on both, then you can try out to be a SEAL by going to BUDS, which is Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL Training. And once you're there, that's broken up into 3 phases, each phase approximately 2 months of weed out, basically, trying to get rid of those that either will quit or those that performance-wise can't meet any of the minimum standards. And then, of course, competence, especially under stress, is important. See if you make any kind of fatal errors, any of those 3 types of events or that happen can get you removed. So each phase has certain disciplines, but it's 6 months, and that's just the beginning. It's usually about a 2-year process to actually earn your trident, which is the symbol we all wear on our chest once you get done.
Ooh, it's a process, and you definitely have to be built for it. Now, back to your book. What motivated you to write 100 Deadly Skills?
100 Deadly Skills was basically I wanted to put a consolidation of skills together that could give good people, 1, some skills they could use to protect themselves, but 2, it also identifies some of the bad guy skills that could be used against them. So having that knowledge will only increase your awareness and know what to look for when a bad guy comes walking around the corner. And if you find yourself in that situation, well, now you got some skills that you can actually leverage to, survive.
And do you know anyone personally who has used some of the tactics in your book to get out of a dangerous situation?
Before the book, but while we were still teaching these skills through Escape the Wolf, we had a journalist down in South America. She ended up warding off, what she thought may have been a potential abduction, but it started out as a mugging. And she definitely gave us kudos for the skills she used to get out of that.
And I'm sure with everything that just happened in Paris, for someone of your caliber, you're sitting there, you're watching, and you're familiar with what they're doing and how they're trying to bring down the terrorists. So talk a little bit about I wanted to ask you, in the sense of in the United States and our role, is that something that we need to be involved in, or is it something where we should just worry about what's in our own backyard?
There's mixed opinions out there about how we play around the globe as global police officers, if you will. When it comes to terrorism, it's when you're the country that has a lot of the capabilities to defeat it, then there's probably a duty there to go and fight it. Because if we don't do it over there, then it potentially could start coming this way, as some of these reports have been coming out. So much better to fight it in someone else's backyard than our own. But then the other side of that, we've been at war for 12, 15 years straight now, and I understand people that don't want to do anything, because you give an opportunity for the troops to rest, kind of regroup, and get ready for the next ridge line, as they say.
And how, trailing on that, how valid do you think, yesterday or like the day before, there was a video released where they were claiming to be in Times Square with handheld grenades that could be easily launched, I guess is the best word to use.
Mm-hmm.
How valid are those threats?
I think right now we're going to have to take all threats and take them seriously. But the reality is, if they were hanging out in Times Square with hand grenades, they probably would have already used them. So they are a propaganda machine, and they know how to just continue to drive fear into most of the globe. And I think we're starting to feel a little bit of that fear right now here in the States. And hence the reason why you've got, the director of the FBI coming on the news yesterday and just telling people, hey, carry on, see something, say something. But if you don't, keep moving on with life. Don't let these guys get the best of us.
Yeah, because they're most definitely here. I guess it's safe to say ISIS has been in the U.S. in some capacity, so can't stop
Right.
living, but at the same time, keep your eyes open and be safe. And speaking of which, in your book, 100 Deadly Skills, is there anything in there that could be helpful to the victims in Paris?
There's some stuff it would have been better if they read it beforehand,
Mm-hmm.
because we talk about active shooter, we talk about grenade attacks,
Mm-hmm.
both of which happened there, obviously. In the aftermath, really, I would say, yeah, I mean, they can learn those skills, but hopefully anyone who had to feel that, or be a part of that, will never have to experience it again. So, but it's better to be prepared than not.
And speaking of being prepared, if you could go in a little bit further about some of those skills that someone could use if they encounter a deadly situation, if someone did have a hand grenade or if there was an active shooter on site.
Yeah, those are the two big skills I think apply. Most of the skills in there apply to today's threats. So, active shooter, the mantra is run, hide, fight. And if you're going to run, we all know if you increase your distance from the threat, then you'll increase survivability, and that's the number one goal. If you can't run because the threat is so imminent, that give it the opportunity to hide, and hide behind things that stop bullets and shrapnel. That would be cinder block walls, big planters, the big structural pillars that are inside malls. Hiding behind a curtain probably isn't going to cut it, even though you might be out of sight. It's probably not going to stop any bullets. And then if you can't run, you can't hide, you find yourself in a confined space, like on a train in Europe or in a classroom, then you're left with the option to fight. And if you're going to fight, team up with others around you. I don't think people really take into consideration the predator's point of view on this. These guys are not the best weapon handlers. They're not the most accurate. It's their first time to go in and be kind of the lone wolf and start shooting people and taking human life. And they're human, so they're going to be nervous. Because of their lack of skills and because they're nervous, even without a gun, good people have some capability they can bring to bear. And probably if they would just fight when it's time to fight, they'd find out that they'd actually win. These guys are not typically even they're not even big guys. They're not big, strong guys. You know, they're kids at the end of the day. They're young and immature in mind and just been drugged down a horrible trail. So, yeah, those are some big ones. Now, when you talk about grenade attacks, you know, usually you're not going to know when the thing is thrown. So the element of surprise is there. Second, if you see it and you're within, 3 steps of cover, and cover is defined as anything that stops bullets, well, then you should take cover. If it drops right at your feet, then you should probably take a couple of big giant steps and then drop to the ground. When grenades go off, they kind of blow up in a cone shape. And the idea is if you're as low to the ground and parallel to the explosive as possible, then you're probably not going to get hit. So you want your feet facing the device, and you want to open your mouth, cross your legs. Opening your mouth relieves the pressure, the shock that's going to happen. And then crossing your legs prevents shrapnel from hitting any of your vital arteries running down the inside, your femoral arteries. And then cover your ears and, hope for the best at that point.
I hear you, and I hope everyone at home is paying attention because those are definitely some good survival skills to use. 100 Deadly Skills. It's out right now. It's a New York bestseller. And you also have a company called Escape the Wolf. And I had a chance to visit your site. I was intrigued by some of the products that you have on there. Can you tell our viewers a little bit about your company?
Yeah, Escape the Wolf provides, really our mantra is bridging the gap between crisis and the unknown for all of our clients. Our clients are everything from academia to Fortune 500 to just small businesses that need custom crisis management policies built. And then we take those policies, educate their workforce through e-learning and videos. And we have samples of e-learning and videos that's open for everyone to go on there and take. We recommend it because it's an education that's for free on today's current threats. We have some cyber classes that are on there. And then we have some products, like you mentioned, like Zero Trace, which is for all of your mobile devices. You throw your mobile device inside of it, and it prevents hackers from remotely exploiting your Wi-Fi, your Bluetooth, your satellite, your GSM and CDMA forms of communication that are on all devices these days.
You can definitely protect all of your electronics, so to speak, because hacking is very serious. I mean, people will hack anything these days. Anything.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, Clint Emerson, retired Navy SEAL, you put in 20 plus years of work. Thank you for your service, and thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All righty, thank you.
All right.